In the bustling heart of Denver, Colorado, there lived a man whose dream was on the verge of collapse. Daniel Roberts, a skilled but struggling mechanic, found himself buried beneath unpaid bills and endless worry, haunted by a past he couldn't outrun. Each day, he woke with calloused hands and a trembling heart, unsure if he'd even make rent that month. Yet fate has a curious way of shifting the tides. When a mysterious woman's luxury car spluttered to a halt outside his garage, Daniel's life took an unexpected turn, one that would send him reeling through a chain of events he never saw coming. Daniel Roberts was 32, a former high school football star who once harbored big ambitions. While his peers went off to college or found stable corporate jobs, Daniel stayed behind to care for his ailing mother, Deborah, whose medical bills drained their life savings. He discovered his natural aptitude for fixing engines early on, apprenticing under an elderly mechanic named Carl Bates. Carl's was a small, independent auto shop on the corner of Union Street and Oak Avenue in Denver. The shop, dusty, cramped, and suffused with the odor of engine oil, became Daniel's second home. He swept the floors, replaced mufflers, and saved every penny to provide for his mother. Yet, no matter how fast he tightened bolts or changed tires, he couldn't outrun debt. After Deborah's passing, the medical bills remained. The lingering hospital costs and funeral expenses forced Daniel to sell almost everything he owned. The old house he'd grown up in, gone. The cherished photos and heirlooms, lost or in storage. Even the ring that had once belonged to his mother was pawned in a desperate bid to keep him afloat. Carl, who had been a father figure to him, passed away soon after Deborah. His small auto shop was handed down to a distant nephew who had little interest in continuing the business. Seeing Daniel's skill and loyalty, the nephew gave him a modest opportunity to stay on as manager, though the shop itself was on the brink of closure. Day in and day out, Daniel fought to keep it afloat. Though he struggled to maintain daily operations, Daniel never lost his passion for helping others. People in the neighborhood referred to him as the fair mechanic because he refused to overcharge, even if it meant losing revenue. His sense of dignity and integrity was ironclad, akin to the many wrenches he used to pry open rusted car parts. On a chilly November afternoon, Daniel was elbow-deep in the hood of a battered 2006 Ford Escort, meticulously tightening a set of spark plugs. The weak winter sunlight illuminated the shop's grimy windows, casting long shadows. He was running late again and dreaded the possibility of missing his landlord's ultimatum. He needed to come up with 3 months' back rent by the following week or face eviction. Just then, the faint roar of an expensive engine met his ears, then sputtered into a desperate cough. He glanced out the window to see a sleek, black Bentley Continental GT rolling to a stop in front of his shop. The engine died, leaving the car angled awkwardly against the curb. Curious and a bit awestruck, Daniel put down his wrench and hurried outside. The driver's door swung open. A striking woman with smooth, dark hair and eyes that held a quiet determination stepped out. She wore a tailored navy blazer, black slacks, and pointed heels that seemed more suited for a corporate boardroom than a rundown auto repair shop. In her arms, she clutched a designer handbag that probably cost more than what Daniel earned in a month. "Excuse me," she began, exhaling a weary sigh. "My car, well, it just died. I'm not sure what happened." Daniel offered a polite smile. "It's all right. These things can be tricky sometimes. Let me help." As he guided her to the side, he popped open the car's hood, scanning the engine. She watched him with a mixture of curiosity and concern. His hands moved swiftly, each gesture seasoned by years of practical experience. After some quick checks, he identified the culprit, a failed alternator. "It's your alternator," he informed her, wiping the back of his hand across his forehead. "I've got a replacement in stock, but it won't be a cheap fix. Bentley parts are expensive, especially genuine ones." She shrugged, evidently relieved it wasn't something irreparable. "As long as you can fix it, money isn't an issue." Daniel nodded, determined to work quickly. With an expertise that came from his dedication, he replaced the faulty part, ensuring every bolt was properly secured. An hour later, the car's engine purred back to life, smooth as silk. When he handed the woman her keys, he noticed her name on the fancy corporate ID card that peeked out of her blazer pocket. Alicia Harrington. The name rang a distant bell, someone he might have read about in a local business journal. Instead of dwelling on it, he told her the cost. She wrote him a check without batting an eye. But before he could thank her, she paused, glancing around the garage. "You do good work," Alicia noted softly, her eyes sweeping over the cramped, outdated shop. "Ever think of expanding?" Daniel let out a short laugh. "Expanding would require money I don't have." She tilted her head, an unreadable expression flickering across her face. "If you're interested, I have a proposition." She handed him a business card. "I might need your services in the future. My schedule is insane, and I value reliable people." Daniel took the card, glancing at the embossed letters. Harrington Enterprises, Incorporator, Alicia Harrington, CEO. Something in his gut told him this woman was far from ordinary. He thanked her, watching as she slid into the Bentley and effortlessly glided back onto the street. He clutched the business card. Could this be his break? Still, skepticism curdled in his stomach. He didn't believe in fairy tale endings. Not anymore. That evening, Daniel locked up the shop and trudged home. His apartment was a rundown studio in a building owned by Mr. Morrison, a landlord with a zero-tolerance policy for late payments. Daniel's nights were filled with restlessness, lying on a squeaky mattress in a space hardly large enough to pace. Paper-thin walls meant he heard every argument from next door. A single overhead bulb flickered ominously, as though it too might expire if he couldn't afford the electricity bill. He set Alicia Harrington's card on his kitchen counter. A half-finished instant noodle cup and a stack of unpaid bills kept it company. Daniel flicked through them. Overdue, final notice, disconnection warning. Knock, knock. It was Mr. Morrison. Panic sparked in Daniel's heart. Opening the door, he found the landlord's stern face. "Rent, Daniel," Mr. Morrison demanded. "I gave you one more week, but I'm done waiting. You're an honest guy, but I can't run a charity." Daniel inhaled slowly. "I know, I'll have it soon." Mr. Morrison frowned, gave a dismissive grunt, and walked away. Even with the Bentley job payment, Daniel was still short. He laid a trembling hand on Alicia's business card and considered calling her. Then he remembered his pride and decided against it. Begging for help wasn't in his nature. If Alicia truly needed more car work, she had his number. Maybe she'd call, maybe not. Days turned into a week, but no call came. Daniel soldiered on, taking small repair jobs, each one far from enough to rescue him financially. He often thought about Alicia Harrington, her unwavering confidence, and how she casually mentioned expansion. He wondered if she was the rumored Ice Queen CEO he'd heard about in passing. People said she was brilliant, tough, and unstoppable, a rising star in the city's corporate circles, going toe-to-toe with big names like Madison Reed of Reed Tech, and even forging business deals rumored to involve Mark Cuban's investment firm. While cleaning the shop one drizzly morning, Daniel's phone buzzed. It was a call from an unknown number. He debated ignoring it. Telemarketers, bill collectors, and scam calls were common. But something urged him to pick up. "Hello? Hi, Daniel? This is Alicia Harrington." His heart gave a jolt. "Yes, Miss Harrington? I've been meaning to call. I'm heading out of town tomorrow for a series of meetings. My Bentley's acting up again. Could you come to my house and take a look? I'd send a tow, but I'd prefer if you see it in person." "Sure," Daniel replied, trying to mask the surge of excitement. "Just text me the address. I'll be there." She thanked him and ended the call. A minute later, his phone chimed with her address. Daniel's eyes widened at the location. Cherry Hills Village, an affluent Denver suburb where mansions lined tranquil, tree-canopied streets. He immediately closed the shop and hopped into his old pickup, which coughed and sputtered but still managed to lurch forward. Cherry Hills Village was a world away from Daniel's dingy studio. Multi-million-dollar estates spread out behind ornate gates, each property boasting manicured lawns and security cameras. Expensive cars glided down the quiet roads, a far cry from the battered pickup Daniel navigated. He caught glimpses of tennis courts, fountains, and pristine gardens. The entire neighborhood exuded opulence. Alicia Harrington's house, or rather mansion, was no exception. Tall, ivy-draped walls concealed a sweeping driveway. The wrought iron gate opened as if expecting him, revealing a sprawling Tudor-style estate. Daniel's hands were clammy on the steering wheel. How could one individual amass such wealth? He parked near the garage, stepping out to survey the immaculately landscaped yard, complete with a burbling koi pond. A moment later, Alicia appeared, dressed casually this time, black leggings, a simple sweater, and a pair of running shoes. She looked more approachable than she had at the shop. "Thank you for coming on such short notice, Daniel," she said, guiding him into the garage. Inside, the Bentley sat alongside a vintage Porsche and a glossy Mercedes SUV, a far cry from the usual beat-up sedans he fixed daily. "No problem," he managed, trying to hide his awe. "So what's the issue?" She shrugged. "I'm hearing a grinding noise near the front right wheel. It started this morning." Daniel began his inspection. The brake pads were worn unevenly, and the rotor had a nasty groove. A simple fix, but an expensive one, especially for a Bentley. He scribbled a quick estimate. Alicia, watching him closely, raised a brow. "That's less than I expected," she remarked. "You're truly honest, aren't you?" He shrugged. "I try to be fair." She gave him a long look, then motioned for him to follow her inside. They walked through a large foyer with a marble floor, passing an elegant spiral staircase. Daniel spotted original artworks, possibly worth more than he'd make in 10 lifetimes. Finally, they arrived in a spacious living room overlooking a garden. Alicia gestured for him to take a seat on a plush couch. "Would you like something to drink?" she asked. "Water, coffee, tea?" "Water would be fine, thanks." She disappeared briefly and returned with 2 glasses of water. Sitting across from him in an armchair, she studied him with thoughtful eyes. "So, I have a proposition," Alicia said. "I've been looking to expand my philanthropic and small business support initiatives. Normally, I fund technology startups. But after seeing your shop and your integrity, I had an idea. How would you feel about a partnership that could allow you to grow your auto repair business?" Daniel blinked, stunned. "A partnership?" She nodded. "I have a friend, Jason Conrad, the CFO at Harrington Enterprises. We've been discussing ways to invest in local businesses that have strong community value. Your shop has that potential. It just needs capital and strategic direction." His mind whirled. A fresh paint job, better tools, staff hires, a marketing campaign, maybe even relocation to a bigger facility. It all sounded like a dream. But then reality struck. Partnership deals often came with a catch. He'd heard enough horror stories of small business owners losing everything. I'm grateful," Daniel stammered, "but I don't want to lose control over my own business. And to be honest, I'm so behind on rent and bills that an investment in my shop might be too risky." Alicia gave him a calm, reassuring smile. "I understand your hesitation. Why don't you think about it? In the meantime, you can do some work for me personally. I own multiple properties, and each one has at least one vehicle that needs upkeep. You can handle maintenance on a regular basis. I'd pay you fairly, better than you're making from your shop alone. You get a steady income, and we keep talking about future plans. Does that sound workable?" Daniel swallowed hard, nodding slowly. "That actually sounds amazing. Thank you." Alicia held out her hand. He shook it, feeling the warmth of her palm. In that moment, he sensed she wasn't just another wealthy executive. There was sincerity in her tone, an empathy that threw him off. This wasn't the typical CEO prowling for profits. This was someone who might genuinely care about him. Daniel returned to his shop with a renewed spark of hope. Within a week, Alicia stayed true to her word, arranging for her other vehicles to be brought in for servicing. Each time, she paid promptly. Daniel used the funds to settle a portion of his rent debt, buy new tools for the shop, and even repainted the exterior. His landlord, Mr. Morrison, was pleasantly surprised by the sudden partial payments. One late afternoon, as Daniel was closing up, a sleek Mercedes SUV pulled into the shop's lot. The driver rolled down the window, revealing a man around Alicia's age, early 30s, with a well-groomed beard and sharp features. He stepped out, wearing a tailored suit and a guarded expression. "You Daniel Roberts?" "Yes, can I help you?" "I'm Matthew Sullivan, CFO at Harrington Enterprises." He extended a hand. "Alicia asked me to drop by, see how things are going. I handle finances for most of her personal endeavors as well." Daniel noticed the man's appraising gaze flicker around the shabby waiting area, the scuffed floor, and the arrangement of leftover parts. "Still quite small," Matthew murmured. "We're working on improvements," Daniel said, a thread of defensiveness creeping in. Matthew nodded politely. "Right. Alicia's been quite interested in your progress. Look, I'll be honest, we have a busy schedule, and any official business partnership might take months to finalize. But I'm here to confirm you're serious, not just leeching off Alicia's generosity. Daniel's jaw tensed. I'm not. She's been incredibly helpful, and I just want to do right by her. He glanced out the window to see a sleek, black Bentley Continental GT rolling to a stop in front of his shop. The engine died, leaving the car angled awkwardly against the curb. Curious and a bit awestruck, Daniel put down his wrench and hurried outside. The driver's door swung open. A striking woman with smooth, dark hair and eyes that held a quiet determination stepped out. She wore a tailored navy blazer, black slacks, and pointed heels that seemed more suited for a corporate boardroom than a rundown auto repair shop. In her arms, she clutched a designer handbag that probably cost more than what Daniel earned in a month. "Excuse me," she began, exhaling a weary sigh. "My car, well, it just died. I'm not sure what happened." Daniel offered a polite smile. "It's all right. These things can be tricky sometimes. Let me help." As he guided her to the side, he popped open the car's hood, scanning the engine. She watched him with a mixture of curiosity and concern. His hands moved swiftly, each gesture seasoned by years of practical experience. After some quick checks, he identified the culprit, a failed alternator. "It's your alternator," he informed her, wiping the back of his hand across his forehead. "I've got a replacement in stock, but it won't be a cheap fix. Bentley parts are expensive, especially genuine ones." She shrugged, evidently relieved it wasn't something irreparable. "As long as you can fix it, money isn't an issue." Daniel nodded, determined to work quickly. With an expertise that came from his dedication, he replaced the faulty part, ensuring every bolt was properly secured. An hour later, the car's engine purred back to life, smooth as silk. When he handed the woman her keys, he noticed her name on the fancy corporate ID card that peeked out of her blazer pocket. Alicia Harrington. The name rang a distant bell, someone he might have read about in a local business journal. Instead of dwelling on it, he told her the cost. She wrote him a check without batting an eye. But before he could thank her, she paused, glancing around the garage. "You do good work," Alicia noted softly, her eyes sweeping over the cramped, outdated shop. "Ever think of expanding?" Daniel let out a short laugh. "Expanding would require money I don't have." She tilted her head, an unreadable expression flickering across her face. "If you're interested, I have a proposition." She handed him a business card. "I might need your services in the future. My schedule is insane, and I value reliable people." Daniel took the card, glancing at the embossed letters. Harrington Enterprises, Incorporator, Alicia Harrington, CEO. Something in his gut told him this woman was far from ordinary. He thanked her, watching as she slid into the Bentley and effortlessly glided back onto the street. He clutched the business card. Could this be his break? Still, skepticism curdled in his stomach. He didn't believe in fairy tale endings. Not anymore. A flicker of skepticism crossed Matthew's features. "Good to hear. I have some errands to run with Alicia tomorrow. She suggested that you come with us. There's a philanthropic event and some real estate property checks. She believes it'd be valuable for you to observe. Maybe you'll learn something about scaling up a business." Daniel was taken aback. "She asked me to join her drive?" Matthew nodded slowly. "Yes. She wants you to see a few investment properties in the city. Might give you ideas on how to restructure your shop. Bring any questions you have." It was an opportunity Daniel couldn't pass up. "Sure, I'll be there." The following day, Daniel found himself in the back seat of Alicia's Mercedes SUV, with Alicia at the wheel and Matthew in the passenger seat. They navigated downtown Denver, Alicia pointing out various buildings Harrington Enterprises either owned or invested in. She spoke in calm, measured tones about real estate yields, local business strategies, and philanthropic outreach. Daniel noticed how seamlessly she switched topics, fielding calls on speakerphone from business partners in New York, then pivoting to discussing her recent charity fundraiser. At one point, Alicia stopped at a dilapidated warehouse. When they stepped out, the echo of passing trains rattled the walls, trash littered the sidewalk, and a chain-link fence threatened to collapse from neglect. "Why are we here?" Daniel asked, surveying the sorry state of the building. Alicia's dark eyes sparkled. "A year ago, this place was an eyesore. Then I invested in turning it into a community center, The local nonprofit, led by the Denver Community Alliance, took over the lease from me at a subsidized rate. We cleared out the debris, renovated the interior, and added recreational facilities for kids. It became a safe haven for families, especially those facing housing instability. She gestured inside, where bright murals covered the walls. To me, business isn't just about profits. It's about giving back. It's the kind of success story I envision for people like you, Daniel, someone with skill and heart, but without the initial capital or connections. Her words resonated deeply with him. Memories of how Carl's Auto Shop served the community, fixing cars for single parents at discounted rates, volunteering on weekends, flooded his mind. If he could bring that ethos back full scale, everything might change. The difference was Alicia had resources beyond imagining. After a brief chat with the center's coordinator, they returned to the SUV. Alicia's phone buzzed. She grimaced and answered, her voice suddenly clipped. "What do you mean the Japanese investors pulled out?" she snapped. "We had an agreement." "No, Matthew already." "Yes, put them on the line." She glanced at Matthew, who frowned deeply. Tension filled the cabin as Alicia launched into a tirade about breach of contract. Daniel listened, uneasy. Even the most stoic business magnates had their storms. She ended the call abruptly, exhaling a shaky breath. "That was the Sato Group pulling out of a $50 million deal," she muttered. "My board's going to have a meltdown." Matthew drummed his fingers on the dashboard. "We'll salvage it. Let me talk to their CFO again." Alicia's grip on the steering wheel tightened. "We'd better. Otherwise, half our expansion plans go on hold." Daniel felt out of place, a mere mechanic in the midst of high-stakes corporate maneuvering. But Alicia managed to regain her composure quickly, offering him an apologetic smile in the rearview mirror. "Sorry you had to see that. Business has its ups and downs," Daniel nodded, though inwardly he was stunned. This woman, who seemed so in control, was grappling with multi-million-dollar crises. It made his own struggles feel simultaneously smaller, yet also validated. The world was chaotic for everyone, just on different scales. After they wrapped up their inspections, Alicia surprised Daniel by inviting him to a late lunch at a cozy bistro known for its farm-to-table dishes. She insisted on paying, waving aside his protests. Matthew excused himself, apparently needing to return to the office to handle the Saito debacle. That left Daniel and Alicia alone at a corner table, soft jazz playing overhead. The conversation began stiffly, with small talk about the food, but soon meandered into more personal territory. She asked him about his family, and he mentioned he was alone, his mother having passed away and his father never being in the picture. Alicia's features softened. "I'm sorry, my parents divorced when I was young. My mother raised me on her own, working multiple jobs. I know how tough that can be." Daniel appreciated her empathy. "What about your father?" She let out a quiet sigh. "He was a corporate lawyer, always chasing money. Hardly saw me. Then he tried to reappear when he found out I was succeeding in business." Her mouth twisted in a wry smile. "I made sure he understood I was doing just fine without him." Their eyes met, a moment of unspoken understanding passing between them. Two people from very different worlds, yet both shaped by hardships and absent fathers. In that instant, an intangible connection sparked, a subtle shift from business acquaintances to something that felt far more personal. Alicia cleared her throat. "Anyway, I have to prepare for a fundraising gala this weekend. It's for the Harrington Foundation, our philanthropic arm. Perhaps you'd like to attend. It could be a good networking opportunity. Plus, I could introduce you to some potential partners for your shop." Daniel almost choked on his water. "A gala? I'm not exactly black tie material." She laughed, a genuine sound that lit her face. "Don't worry, I'll help you figure it out." The Harrington Foundation Gala arrived faster than Daniel anticipated. Alicia had arranged for a personal shopper to fit him with a tailored suit, complete with a crisp white shirt and a classic black tie. As he gazed at himself in the mirror, he barely recognized the man who stared back. Tall, lean, with an air of confidence he rarely felt. It was as though he'd stepped into a different life. He arrived at the Grand Ballroom in downtown Denver, an opulent space adorned with chandeliers and gilded decor. Wealthy patrons, many of them local celebrities or major business players, glided through the room, sipping champagne and exchanging polite smiles. Daniel felt his heart hammering. He was painfully aware of how out of place he seemed. Yet Alicia spotted him and waved him over, her face brightening. She looked stunning in a floor-length emerald gown that accentuated her figure, her hair pinned into an elegant updo. "You made it," she said, slipping her arm through his and guiding him toward a cluster of guests. "Let me introduce you to a few people." The evening was a whirlwind of handshakes and forced politeness. He met philanthropic leaders, socialites, and CEOs. Names like Madison Reed, who recognized Alicia as her main competitor in real estate technology, offered curt greetings. Others, like the city's mayoral candidate Angela Barrett, were more friendly, eager to secure Alicia's endorsement. At one point, while Alicia was pulled aside by a local news station for a brief interview, Daniel found himself cornered by a tall, suave man who appeared out of nowhere. "You must be Daniel Roberts, right?" the man asked, offering a perfectly manicured hand. "I'm Brad Whitmore." He was introduced as an investor who occasionally collaborated with Harrington Enterprises. Brad exuded the charm of a consummate salesman. Daniel shook his hand. "Yes, I'm Daniel. Good to meet you." Brad flashed a grin. "A mechanic, correct? Alicia's latest project." Daniel tensed at the condescension in the man's tone. "She's been kind enough to guide me." Brad chuckled. "Guide you or more? Listen, Alicia's a brilliant woman. But a word of warning, she doesn't let anyone get close without a reason." Daniel bristled. "I appreciate the advice, but I'm just grateful for her help." Brad's grin remained intact, but there was a predatory gleam in his eye. "Just keep your wits about you. Deals in Alicia's circle can be complicated." Before Daniel could retort, Alicia reappeared, bright and radiant, slipping an arm around Daniel's shoulders. "Brad, good to see you," she greeted politely, but her voice held a distant edge. "I see you've met Daniel." "Yes, of course," Brad lifted his champagne glass. "We were just chatting about your philanthropic ventures." Alicia nodded, looking unimpressed. "Indeed, if you'll excuse us." She steered Daniel away, guiding him toward another group. Her demeanor softened once they were out of earshot. "I'm sorry, Brad can be a bit intense. He's been trying to buy a stake in one of my newest startups, but I'm hesitant. He's too greedy for my taste." "I got that vibe," Daniel remarked. "He seemed wary of you helping me." Alicia let out a short laugh. "He's wary of anything he doesn't control." Then, more quietly, "I prefer controlling my own life and trusting who I want to trust." For an instant, the atmosphere between them crackled with unspoken words. Daniel recalled the synergy they'd had at lunch, the shared vulnerabilities. He realized his feelings were evolving. Admiration for her generosity was morphing into something deeper. As the gala wound down, Alicia offered Daniel a ride back to his apartment. He hesitated, aware that her driver was waiting with a gleaming black limousine, but she insisted. During the drive, they chatted about the evening, the people they met, and the potential next steps for Daniel's shop. The city lights blurred past, a kaleidoscope of color. Suddenly, Alicia's phone rang. She put it on speaker, and Daniel recognized Matthew Sullivan's voice. "Alicia, we have a problem," Matthew said, tension coiling in his words. "The Cyto Group is threatening legal action over the contract. They claim we misrepresented some data. We didn't, of course, but they're forging ahead. I need you to come to the office first thing tomorrow." Alicia's jaw tightened. "All right, I'll be there." She ended the call and sighed, leaning back against the plush leather seat. This fiasco is escalating. Daniel touched her hand gently. "I'm sorry. Wish I could do something to help." She glanced at his hand on hers, eyes softening. "Sometimes just knowing someone cares is enough." She squeezed his fingers lightly, sending a warm rush through him. They fell into a contemplative silence as the limo rolled to a stop outside Daniel's apartment building. She stepped out with him, ignoring her chauffeur's polite cough. Under the dim streetlight, she studied his worn apartment complex, a stark contrast to her mansion. "I'll be all right," Daniel said, attempting a reassuring grin. "I'm just grateful for everything you've done." Alicia smiled softly. "Thank you for tonight. You were out of your element, but you handled it gracefully." A flicker of hesitation passed across her face, as if she might say something more intimate. Instead, she reached into her bag, retrieved an envelope, and handed it to him. "An advance payment for your future services on my vehicles, and a small bonus for your help with the gala. Please don't argue." He opened the envelope and his breath caught. It was several $1,000s in cash, far more than he'd earned in the last few months combined. Alicia, this is, just accept it. You deserve it. He nodded, overwhelmed. For a moment, it seemed they stood on the precipice of an unspoken confession. But Alicia merely offered a soft goodbye and returned to her limo. Daniel watched as it disappeared into the night, his mind and heart both ablaze with possibilities. The next morning, Daniel used part of Alicia's gift to pay off his back rent. Mr. Morrison, though he didn't smile, offered a begrudging nod of appreciation. He also purchased better tools for the shop, determined to do right by her belief in him. But life rarely proceeds without complications. That afternoon, while Daniel was immersed in repairing a battered Honda Civic, a stranger strode into the garage. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with a hardened face that bore scars hinting at a rough past. "You, Daniel?" the man growled, removing his sunglasses. Daniel paused, noticing the man's knuckles. A faint swirl of tattoos suggested a gang affiliation or some criminal background. "Yes, can I help you?" The stranger pulled out a crumpled photo of Daniel talking to Alicia outside her mansion. "I need information about Miss Harrington, specifically about her finances, her plans." Daniel's stomach sank. "Who are you? Why would you ask me?" The man sneered. "Names aren't important, but let's say I have a client who wants leverage on Alicia Harrington. You're close to her, right? Listen, man, I just need some details. Could be worth your while." Anger pulsed in Daniel's veins. "Get out! I'm not giving you anything." The stranger stepped closer, his presence menacing. "Think carefully. That pretty face of yours in your business might not fare so well if you don't cooperate." Daniel stood firm, though fear pricked him. "Don't come back here." The man chuckled darkly, sliding his sunglasses back on. "Last chance. We know where you live, who you deal with. All it takes is one phone call. Accidents happen, shops burn down." Despite the fear swirling in his gut, Daniel held his ground. "If you hurt Alicia or me, you won't get anything you want. Now leave." The man muttered a string of curses, then turned and strode out. Heart hammering, Daniel rushed to lock the shop door behind him. A swirl of dread took hold. Someone was targeting Alicia, and now they knew about him. Could it be Brad Whitmore or the Saito Group? Or was it some other rival? The stress built inside him. He cursed under his breath, determined to warn Alicia. That evening, Daniel called Alicia. She sounded exhausted, but insisted on meeting him at a discreet late-night cafe outside the main city. She arrived looking as though she'd weathered a storm. Dark circles under her eyes, her hair hastily tied back. "What happened?" she asked the moment she slid into the booth across from him. He took a steadying breath, then recounted the stranger's threats. Alicia's face paled. She clenched her fists on the table. "I can't believe this," she whispered. "I've had my fair share of corporate sabotage, but this is crossing a line." "Do you have any idea who might be behind it?" Daniel asked. "Could it be Saito or Brad Whitmore?" Alicia pressed her lips into a thin line. "The Saito Group might play hardball legally, but I don't think they'd hire thugs. Brad, on the other hand, he's known for underhanded tactics, but I'm not sure he'd stoop this low." She exhaled shakily. "This is bigger than a typical business dispute. I've ruffled some feathers in my acquisitions. Some people lose fortunes when I outbid them. And there's also the personal angle. My father's side of the family is shady. I can't be certain who's pulling the strings. But this threat is real." Daniel reached across the table and took her hands, ignoring the curious glance from a waitress. "We'll get through this. Maybe we should go to the police." Alicia pulled her hands away, rubbing her temples. "I'll have my security detail look into it. But involving the police might escalate things. I have a public image to consider, and any hint of scandal could tank my negotiations or scare off partners. For now, keep your eyes open and stay safe. I'll make sure you're protected." Emotion welled up inside him at her words. She was worried about him. "Look, Alicia, I'm not going to run or hide. I refuse to be intimidated by criminals." A faint smile curved her lips. "You have the heart of a lion, Daniel Roberts, but please be careful." The cafe's lights flickered overhead, casting soft shadows across her face. Daniel made a split-second decision, adrenaline coursing through him. "I want to help you, not just with your cars or business, but, I don't know. You've done so much for me. I hate seeing you burdened." Her eyes glistened. Relief mingled with a tenderness that left him breathless. "Thank you," she murmured. "You have no idea how much that means to me." With all this corporate chaos, it feels like the ground is slipping beneath me. But then I think of you, your honesty, your warmth. You remind me there's still goodness in this world. Daniel swallowed the lump in his throat. Alicia, you're the best thing that's happened to me in a long time. For a moment, they stared at each other in the dimly lit cafe, as though they were the only two people in the world. Their gazes locked, hearts pounding in unison. Then, as if pulled by gravity, their faces inched closer. The world hushed. In that charged hush, Alicia's phone buzzed jarringly, snapping them back. She checked the screen. Matthew. With a regretful sigh, she answered. Yes? She paused, pressing a hand over her eyes. I'll be right there. She ended the call and fixed Daniel with an apologetic look. Crisis at the office, I have to go. Daniel nodded, forcing a smile. It's okay. Another time. She stood, leaning down to press a light, fleeting kiss on his cheek. Stay safe, Daniel. When she left, the space around him felt emptier than ever. He had no illusions now. His feelings were undeniably shifting into something profound. But given the swirl of threats and tension, he couldn't be sure if Alicia felt the same way, or if this was just a fleeting emotional connection forged under duress. Over the next few days, life blurred into a whirlwind of half-fixed engines and phone calls. Daniel was constantly on guard, half expecting the menacing stranger to reappear. Meanwhile, Alicia texted updates. Her security team was investigating, her legal team was responding to Saito, and her board demanded daily progress reports. She sounded exhausted, but she never complained. Then one afternoon, Alicia's CFO, Matthew Sullivan, arrived at Daniel's shop, tension etched across his features. We need to talk, he said curtly, waving aside Daniel's greeting. They sat in the cramped office, surrounded by engine parts and piles of receipts. Matthew cleared his throat. Alicia might be in danger. We're close to identifying the group behind the threats, but we suspect corporate espionage tied to Brad Whitmore. Alicia's father is also making noise about reclaiming some assets. It's a mess. Daniel's pulse pounded. How can I help? Matthew's eyes flickered with reluctance. Alicia trusts you, more than she trusts a lot of people. She's always been careful about letting anyone into her personal life, but you've broken through her walls. That said, I need you to keep her grounded. She's trying to juggle everything at once. Her philanthropic commitments, the board's demands, the threats, and, he paused, eyes narrowing. Whatever is going on between you two personally. Daniel stiffened. I'm not sure I follow. Matthew's lips pressed into a thin line. Come on, Daniel. I'm not blind. I see how you look at each other. My concern is that Alicia's emotional vulnerability might cloud her judgment at a critical time. I'm not saying your intentions aren't genuine, but you have to be aware how precarious her position is. Daniel set his jaw. I care about her. I won't let her get hurt. Matthew studied him for a long moment, then nodded. All right, then do it right. Stand by her, but don't let your emotions blind you either. If you see something suspicious, tell me. This isn't just business. Someone out there wants to harm her. We can't take any chances. Daniel agreed, though Matthew's words prickled him. He didn't like the insinuation that he might distract Alicia. But at least they both wanted the same thing, Alicia's safety. News broke that Harrington Enterprises stock was dipping due to rumors of the Saito Group's legal threat. Headlines in the Denver Post speculated about Alicia's leadership. Brad Whitmore, ironically, appeared on a local business show, claiming Harrington Enterprises was overextended and ripe for acquisition. Alicia responded by pushing forward with a public charity event, a flashy unveiling of a new youth mentorship program. Daniel was there, helping set up cars on display for an auction to benefit underprivileged students. The event took place in a posh hotel ballroom filled with glitz, but underlying tension was palpable. Alicia's security detail, discreet yet clearly on high alert, scanned every face. Halfway through the event, Alicia asked Daniel to walk with her outside to get some air. In a secluded garden area, lit by soft lanterns, they found a moment of quiet. She leaned against a stone railing, shoulders sagging under the invisible weight of scrutiny. You look exhausted, Daniel murmured, gently tucking a stray strand of hair behind her ear. You need rest. I know, she replied softly, but I can't show weakness. Everyone's watching. The slightest sign of vulnerability, and the vultures swoop in. She sighed, her eyes shining with unshed tears. Sometimes I wonder if it's all worth it. He stepped closer, placing a hand on her shoulder. You give people hope, Alicia. Jobs, support, second chances. You matter to so many. A single tear slipped down her cheek. What if I can't keep it up? What if they destroy me? Daniel gently wiped the tear away. They won't, because you're stronger than they realize, and you're not alone. She looked up, eyes glimmering with gratitude. Then, as if the tension snapped, she stood on her tiptoes and pressed her lips to his. The kiss was electric, a meeting of two battered souls who finally found solace in each other. When they broke apart, she clung to his jacket. I'm sorry, this is probably the worst timing. Daniel cupped her face in his hands. I've wanted to do that for a while, he confessed. Her lips curved into a weak smile. Me too, but we must be careful. This is a delicate situation. He nodded. I understand. They walked back inside, hand in hand, uncertain of the future, but aware that this fragile bond between them had evolved into something they could no longer ignore. Within days, Alicia's security uncovered enough evidence to implicate Brad Whitmore in orchestrating intimidation tactics, aiming to weaken Alicia's hold on her assets so he could seize them cheaply. Confronted with proof, Brad was forced to step back from his power plays. Yet the legal crisis with the Saito Group persisted, draining Alicia's time and resources. One cold evening, Alicia left a tense board meeting. As she walked to her parked car, she felt the hairs on her neck stand up. Someone was watching. Before she could react, the same scarred stranger who had threatened Daniel stepped from behind a pillar. We need to talk, he hissed, brandishing a gun. Alicia's heart lurched. Let's not do anything stupid, Alicia said, lifting her hand slightly. He sneered. Your little boyfriend refused to cooperate, so now we do this the hard way. A flash of headlights across the parking garage. Alicia's driver was nowhere in sight. She'd sent him home early. Panic churned in her. She needed to stall. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw Daniel approaching. He'd come to pick her up, worried about her late meeting. She gave the subtlest shake of her head, but it was too late. The thug spotted him. Stop right there, the man snarled, gun wavering. You want to be a hero? Daniel stopped, hands raised. Let her go. We'll do whatever you want. The man scoffed. Too late for that. A sudden blur of movement. Alicia's security detail, having followed her from the boardroom, rushed in. The thug fired once, the bullet ricocheting off a concrete pillar. In the ensuing chaos, Daniel tackled Alicia to the ground, shielding her with his body. The security guards subdued the thug, wresting the gun away. Sirens wailed in the distance. Alicia's pulse hammered as she lay beneath Daniel, their breaths ragged. He brushed hair from her face. Are you all right? She nodded, tears pooling. You saved me, she whispered. He cradled her face in trembling hands. I'd do anything for you. Don't you know that by now? The morning after the parking garage ambush broke over Denver with a cold, cleansing rain. It felt poetic, as though the storm that had threatened Alicia's life, and by extension Daniel's, had finally broken, giving way to something new. In the days that followed, the police worked swiftly. The man who had threatened them was arrested, and under pressure he revealed a trail leading back to one of Brad Whitmore's partners, an unscrupulous hedge fund manager desperate to tank Alicia's assets and force a hostile buyout. The news spread quickly, but rather than weakening Alicia's position, it had the opposite effect. Local media hailed her as a fearless businesswoman who had survived not just cutthroat deals, but literal threats to her life. Her stock rebounded. Her board, once anxious, rallied behind her. She gave a brief, dignified press statement, thanking law enforcement and emphasizing the importance of community and courage. But what most people didn't see was the woman behind the statement, exhausted, shaken, yet deeply grateful. Grateful to be alive, grateful to still be standing, and grateful for Daniel. He hadn't left her side through the entire ordeal. He'd stood between her and danger, literally shielding her body with his own. In private, Alicia had called him her hero, but Daniel had only smiled and said, I just did what anyone who loves you would do. Those words stayed with her. So when the dust finally settled, Alicia made a decision she hadn't made in years. She took time off. For the first time since she'd inherited Harrington Enterprises, She stepped away from the boardrooms, from the meetings and the media, and chose something for herself. She chose Daniel. They retreated to a quiet cabin nestled in the Rocky Mountains, surrounded by snow-tipped pines and the hush of winter. It was a place neither of them had visited before, but it felt like a return to themselves, to peace, to possibility. There were no chauffeurs, no security detail, no business calls, just two people cooking together in a modest kitchen, hiking winding trails hand in hand, and warming their toes by a roaring fire. For the first time in months, maybe years, they breathed freely. One evening, after a homemade dinner and a long walk in the snow, Alicia handed Daniel a small wrapped box. Inside was a gleaming set of custom mechanics tools and something else, a deed. Daniel stared at it, uncomprehending at first. "What is this?" "It's a commercial property," Alicia explained softly. "Downtown, zoned for auto repair. It's yours, Daniel. I bought it in your name. I want you to have a shop that matches the size of your talent." Emotion closed Daniel's throat. "I can't accept this. It's too much." Alicia smiled. "No, it's just enough. You saved my life. Now I want to build a better one with you." And in that flickering firelight, with the mountains outside and the warmth of her hand in his, Daniel whispered the words that had been in his heart for so long. "I love you, Alicia Harrington." Her eyes sparkled. "I love you too, Daniel Roberts." A new dawn had begun, not just in the mountains, but in their lives. Months had passed since Daniel and Alicia exchanged vows, and life had transformed in ways neither of them could have predicted. The once struggling mechanic who worked under flickering lights and leaking roofs now stood as the proud owner of Carl's Legacy Auto Care, a gleaming, fully equipped auto shop nestled in a revitalized Denver neighborhood. The name paid homage to the mentor who had shaped Daniel's hands and heart. With Alicia's guidance and her thoughtful gift of the commercial property deed, Daniel had created more than just a business. He had built a haven for those often overlooked: single parents, veterans, youth looking for honest work. The shop had become a pillar of the community, offering discounted repairs, apprenticeship programs, and even hosting weekend workshops for kids interested in mechanics. He hadn't done it alone. Alicia stood beside him, not as a distant benefactor, but as an active partner in life and philanthropy. She often visited the shop between corporate meetings, sometimes dressed in heels and a tailored suit, other times in jeans and a t-shirt, holding coffee and updates on the latest Harrington initiatives. Across town, Alicia continued to helm Harrington Enterprises, now stronger than ever. The Sato partnership, once teetering on the brink, had not only been salvaged but restructured to create groundbreaking innovations in energy-efficient transportation. Alicia's leadership was hailed in business circles, her image gracing financial magazines alongside names like Madison Reed and Mark Cuban. But to Daniel, she was simply Alicia, the woman who believed in him when no one else did. Their personal life blossomed in quiet, steady ways. They split time between Alicia's modern city penthouse and a modest home Daniel had renovated with his own hands. Despite their vastly different origins, they had built a life rooted in mutual respect, vulnerability, and a love that had weathered boardroom betrayals and literal bullets. The staff at Harrington Enterprises, once skeptical, now admired Daniel's quiet wisdom and Alicia's ability to bridge worlds. Matthew Sullivan, now a staunch ally, often remarked that Daniel was Harrington's greatest acquisition. Eventually, surrounded by close friends, loyal employees, and members of the community they had uplifted, Daniel and Alicia renewed their vows in a private ceremony under a canopy of lights at the new community garden Alicia helped fund. Alicia's eyes shimmered as she spoke, her voice steady and warm. "You fixed more than my car, Daniel. You helped mend a life I didn't know was broken." Daniel's hand trembled slightly as he held hers. "And you gave me a future I never dared to dream." They sealed their vows with a kiss under the stars. As the night wore on, laughter echoed through the garden, and when they finally left, Alicia's Bentley humming softly beneath Daniel's hands, they glanced back once more. Behind them was a crowd of people they had uplifted. Ahead, a future of endless possibility. Together, they weren't just building a life, they were driving it forward, hand in hand, into a shared tomorrow. Every life has its turning points. Moments when tragedy, perseverance, and a single act of kindness collide to create an astonishing new path. For Daniel Roberts and Alicia Harrington, That moment arrived the day her Bentley rolled into his modest garage. Their story is proof that when we help someone in need, we light a spark of change that can transform us all. Their union reminds us that hope survives even in hardship. When two hearts uphold one another, mountains move, and possibilities unfold. May their journey inspire each of us to open our hands and our hearts a little wider. If you found meaning in their story or felt moved by their resilience, consider liking this video, sharing it with friends, and subscribing to the channel. Let's keep spreading hope, one story at a time, because sometimes the smallest act of kindness can lead to the greatest miracles.